Yes. So it is 32nd verse, right? We did. 32nd verse, right? 1.1.5.32. So a little recap of just by taking the Uchishta of such great sages. Uchishtaha, Lepanaha, 25th verse speaks about it. I took the remnants and then I got engaged in serving them. Because of that, all the sins were eradicated. I became purified in the heart. And the 26th verse of Vyasadeva, in that association, I could hear them speaking attractive activities of Krishna. When I developed a taste, Ruchi developed. My attention in hearing became unflinching. My taste developed. And in this way, 2 seasons, I got the opportunity, rainy season, autumn season, to hear from such a great souls. Then in the 29th verse, I was very much attached to these sages. And the nature of Narada is I was very gentle in behavior. All my sins were eradicated. I developed a strong faith in them. And then when they were leaving, they were very kind to me. They instructed to me the most confidential subject about Lord. And because of that, I could see that how the Lord's energy, Yenevaham Bhagavato Vasudevasya Vedasaha Mayanubhavam Bhavam Avidam Yena Gachanti Tatpadam. So I could easily see the influence of the energy of Krishna. I could see how he is the creator, maintainer, annihilator. And by knowing this, one can return to him and personally meet him. Etat samsuchitam brahmans. 32nd verse, 1.5.32. Etat samsuchitam brahmans. Tapatraya chikishitam chikitsitam Yadishvare Bhagavati Karma Brahmani Bhavitam. So 3 kinds of miseries. It is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing these miseries is to dedicate one's activity in the service of Lord. Etat samsuchitam. Suchitam means decided. Who has decided? This learned people. O Brahman, O Brahmana Vyasa, Tapatraya Chikitsitam. Chikitsitam means remedial measures. For this Tapatraya, 3 types of Tapa. Ishvare Bhagavati Karmaha Brahman. Do all the activities for Krishna. Dedicated. Just dedicate yourself in the activities of Krishna. Then all the 3 tapas can be easily removed. When we say 3 tapas, to understand, just now we were doing 2nd canto, how these 3 Adibhuta, Adhyatman, Adideva comes into existence. How it manifests. It manifests because of the 3 modes of material nature. That is why you get Kriya Shakti. That is activities. Kriya Shakti. Then you get Dravya Shakti. That is a matter you get. And then you get Kriya Shakti, Dravya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti. This is only Adibhuta, Adideva, and Adhyatma. Anyhow, in 2nd canto, you will do all these things. So anyhow, all these things are misery only. Adhyatma is also misery because the mind goes on thinking a lot. The bodies get a lot of difficulties. Adibhuta, external things. Adibhuta, external things gives a lot of difficulties. And then outside people give difficulties. Adideva. Adideva means the natural things give us difficulty. So all these difficulties can easily go away if we dedicate ourselves to the service of Krishna. Okay. Adi Sadhiki Mataji, start.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Etat Sangsuchitam Brahmang Staputraya Chikitsitam Jadi Sware Bhagavati Karma Brahmani Bhavitam. The translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Brahmana Vasudeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Purport: Sri Narada Muni personally experienced that the most feasible and practical way to open the path of salvation or get relief from all miseries of life is to hear submissively the transcendental activities of the Lord from the right and bona fide sources. This is the only remedial process. The entire material existence is full of miseries. Foolish people have manufactured out of their tiny brains many remedial measures for removing the threefold miseries pertaining to the body and mind, pertaining to the natural disturbances, and in relation with other living beings. The whole world is struggling very hard to exist out of these miseries, but men do not know what without the sanction of the Lord, no plan or no remedial measure can actually bring about the desired peace and tranquility. The remedial measure to cure a patient by medical treatment is useless if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. To cross the river or the ocean by a suitable boat is no remedial measure if it is not sanctioned by the Lord. We should know for certain that the Lord is the ultimate sanctioning officer, and we must therefore dedicate our attempts to the mercy of the Lord for ultimate success or to get rid of the obstacles on the path of success. The Lord is all-pervading, all-powerful, omniscient, and omnipresent. He is the ultimate sanctioning agent of all good or bad effects. We should therefore learn to dedicate our activities unto the mercy of the Lord and act Him either as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It does not matter what one is. One must dedicate everything to the service of the Lord. If one is a learned scholar, scientist, philosopher, poet, etc., then he should employ his learning to establish the supremacy of the Lord. Try to study the energy of the Lord in every sphere of life. Do not decry him and try to become like him or take his position simply by fragment accumulation of knowledge. If one is an actor, statesman, warrior, politician, etc., then one should try to establish the Lord's supremacy in statesmanship. Fight for the cause of the Lord as Sri Arjuna did. In the beginning, Sri Arjuna, the great fighter, did fight. But when he was convinced by the Lord that fighting was necessary, Sri Arjuna changed his decision and fought for his cause. Similarly, if one is a businessman, an industrialist, an agriculturist, etc., then one should spend his hard-earned money for the cause of the Lord. Think always that the money which is accumulated is the wealth of the Lord. Wealth is considered to be the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and the Lord is Narayana, or the husband of Lakshmi. Try to engage Lakshmi in the service of Lord Narayana and be happy. That is the way to realize the Lord in every sphere of life. The best thing is, after all, to get relief from all material activities and engage oneself completely in hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. But in case of the such an opportunity, one should try to engage in the service of God, everything for which for the Lord, everything for which one has specific attraction. And that is the way of peace and prosperity. The word Samsuchitam is the stanza is also significant. One should not think the moment the realization of Narada was childish imagination only. It is not like that. It is so realized by the expert and erudite scholars that and that is the real import of the word Samasuchitam. Thank you very much for.
So now, this material world is having a lot of miseries. The service, the activity itself became the cure. That means activity has not to be stopped. It has to be spiritualized. Activity is not a problem. So here the question is asked, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the very same thing? Amayo yaschah bhutanam jayate yena suvrataha tadeva hamyam dravyam na punati chikitsitam. So amayam means disease. Bhutanam jayate yena. The same disease is cured. How it is cured? By the same thing. By the same activity became a problem for the bondage. So then there is a verse, Yagyathat karmano netra lokoyam karma vandana. Do the activity for Krishna. Simple. Now, how to remove the disorder of the stomach? By taking the same milk preparation. But how milk preparation? In the form of dahi. You take the same thing in a different form. You are liberated. You want to cook? Cook, but for Krishna. So activity is not a problem. How to change the form of an activity? That is more important. Okay. Okay. Dayasagar Prabhu read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Amayo yascha bhutanam chayate yena suvrata tad eva hi amayan dravyam na punati chikitsitam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Purport. An expert physician treats his patient with therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparations sometimes cause disorder of the bowels, but the very same milk converted into curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities has to be spiritualized, just as by fire iron is made red hot and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of the thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over the material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the Supreme Spiritual Being. Everything is an emanation from the Supreme Spirit, and by his inconceivable power, he can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so-called, is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so-called matter in the service of the spirit. That is the way to treat our material diseases and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane where there is no misery, no lamentation, and no fear. When everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there is nothing except the Supreme Brahman. The Vedic mantra that everything is Brahman is thus realized by us. Hare Krishna.
Sarvam Khalvidam Brahman is thus realized by us. Evam Nunam Kriya Yoga Sarve Samsruti Hetavaha. The Evatma Vinashaya Kalpante Kalpita Pare. Thus, when all man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which cause his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of birth. Same, Yagyatha Karmanonatra Lokoyam Karma Bandha. Same thing. You remember this verse. In Bhagavad Gita, we are done in third chapter. Activities, cause of bondage. Same activities for Krishna, Kriya Yoga. All the activities that release a person. Kalpitaha Pare, dedicated to the transcendence. Whatever dedicated to the transcendence, same activity leaves a person. Okay? Kamalakshmi, please read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam Mataji. Evam nirnam kriya yogaha sarva samriti ketavaha ta evatma vinasaya kalpante kalpitaha pare. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki Jai.
Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai. Translation. Thus, when all man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work, purport. Fruitive work which has perpetually engaged a living being is compared to the banyan tree in the Bhagavad Gita. For it is certainly very deeply rooted. As long as the propensity for enjoying the fruit of work is there, one has to continue the transmigration of the soul from one body to place to another, according to one's nature of work. The propensity for enjoyment may be turned into the desire for serving the mission of the Lord. By doing so, one's activities changed into karma yoga, or the way by which one can attain spiritual perfection while engaging in the work for which he has natural tendency. Here the word Atma indicates the categories of all fruitive work. The conclusion is that when the result of all fruitive and other work is dovetailed with the service of the Lord, it will cease to generate further karma and will gradually develop into transcendent devotional service, which will not only cut off completely the root of the banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performer to the lotus feet of the Lord. The summary is that one has to, first of all, seek the association of pure devotees who not only are learned in the Vedanta, but are self-realized souls and unallied devotees of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. In that association, the neophyte devotees must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be more favorable in bestowing their mercy which injects the neophyte with all the transcendent qualities of the pure devotees. Gradually, this is developed into a strong attachment to hearing the transcendent pastimes of the Lord, which makes him able to catch up the constitutional position of the gross and subtle bodies, and beyond them the knowledge of pure soul and his eternal relation with the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead. After the relation is attained by establishment of the eternal relation, pure devotional service to the Lord begins gradually developing into perfect knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Beyond the purview of impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma by such Purushottama Yoga, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one is made perfect even during the present corporal real existence, and one exhibits all the good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. Such is the gradual development by association of pure devotees. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam.
By performing every activity of Krishna, then all the wonderful qualities, Yat Surayaha, we have studied this, Yat Surayaha. Such wonderful qualities are exhibited. Yatatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yat tadadhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Yat atraha kriyate. Whatever in this life kriyate, one performs karma work bhagavat unto the Lord paritoshanam. He feels that satisfaction, and also it's for the satisfaction of Lord. Jnanam yattat, that is knowledge. Aditam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. In this way, everything is for Krishna, dovetailed for Krishna. Samanvitam means dovetailed for Krishna. So whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord, that is bhakti yoga, transcendental love service to the Lord, and what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So what is knowledge? Which makes us understand this thing. What is the thing? Whatever activity is done for Krishna relieves us from this bondage. So activity is not a problem. For whom we are doing? For the satisfaction of Krishna. That is more important. Okay. Kusuma Mataji, you read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Yad atra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattat adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord, and what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Purport: the general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually, Bhakti Yoga is above both karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of jnana or karma. On the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on Bhakti Yoga. This Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, as recommended by Sri Narad to Vyasa, is specifically recommended because this principle is to satisfy the Lord. The Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him, but going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infections. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. This purification means attainment of spiritual knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of the Lord. Other knowledge, being devoid of Bhakti Yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation, as already explained in connection with the stanza Naishkarmyam Api Achyuta Bhava Varjitam. The conclusion is that the devotee engaged in the unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Achyuta bhava varjitam. Naishkarmam api achyuta bhava. What is the use of being nishkarmi? Nishkarmi. That means I don't expect any results. What is the use? It has no achyuta bhava. Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam. Such type of the jnana, such type of karma is not at all pleasing to Lord, because it is not connected to Lord. All the fruits of our activities, all the results of our knowledge should connect to Lord. Okay. Kurvana yatra karmani bhagavat shikshaya sakruta grunanti gunanamani krishnasya smaranti cha. Kurvana yatra karmani bhagavat shikshaya sakruta grunanti gunanamani krishnasya smaranti cha. So now, kurvanti, while performing yatra karmani, duties, bhagavat shikshaya, according to the will of Lord, that is chaturvaranyam. Chaturvaranyam asishtam guna karma vibhagasha. Krishna has created these chaturvarna, the duties, everything. Now, guna karma, same thing, guna karma vibhagasha. At that time, what he should do? Constantly, namani krishnasya anusmaranti. He should always remember Krishna. Whatever varna ashrama he may be, according to the will of Lord, according to guna karma, he performs according to guna, he performs activities, he should remember Krishna. Okay? Krishna Priya Mataji, read.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji, I cannot read because I'm traveling. Sorry.
Who will read? Aneja Prabhu or Gadadhar Prabhu also can read. Who will read? Aneja Prabhu read. Yeah. Unmute yourself. Unmute and read. Unmute first.
Hare.
Yeah.
Hare
Read the
Krishna.
words.
Kurvana yatra karmani bhagavad shikshat sakrata grananti gunamani krishnasya smranti cha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. While performing duties according to the order of Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities. Purport. An expert devotee of the Lord can mold his life in such a way that while performing all kinds of duties, either for this or the next life, he can constantly remember the Lord's name, fame, qualities, etc. The order of the Lord is distinctly there in the Bhagavad Gita. One should work only for the Lord in all spheres of life. In every sphere of life, the Lord should be situated as the proprietor. According to the Vedic rites, even in the worship of some demigods like Indra, Brahma, Saraswati, and Ganesha, the system is that in all circumstances, the representation of Vishnu should be there as Gyaneshwara or the controlling power of such sacrifices. It is recommended that a particular demigod be worshipped for a particular purpose, but still the presence of Vishnu is compulsory in order to make the function proper. Apart from such Vedic duties, even in our ordinary livings, for example, in our household affairs or in our business or profession, we must consider that the result of all activities must be given to the Supreme Enjoyer, Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has declared himself to be the Supreme Enjoyer of everything, the Supreme Proprietor of every planet, and the Supreme Friend of all beings. No one else but Lord Shri Krishna can claim to be the proprietor of everything within his creation. A pure devotee remembers this constantly, and in doing so, he repeats the transcendental name, fame, and qualities of the Lord, which means that he is constantly in touch with the Lord. The Lord is identical with his name, fame, etc., and therefore to be associated with his name, fame, etc. constantly means actually to associate with the Lord. The major portion of our monetary income, not less than 50%, must be spent to carry out the order of Lord Krishna. Not only should we give the profit of our earning to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that is also one of the orders of the Lord. The Lord definitely says that no one is more dear to him than the one who is always engaged in the preaching work of the Lord's name and fame all over the world. The scientific discoveries of the material world can also be equally engaged in carrying out his order. He wants the message of the Bhagavad Gita to be preached amongst his devotees. It may not be so done amongst those who have no credit of austerities, charity, education, etc. Therefore, the attempt must go on to convert unwilling men to become his devotees. Lord Chaitanya has taught a very simple method of this in this connection. He has taught the lesson for preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. As such, 50% of our income may be spent for his purpose. In this fallen age of quarrel and dissension, if only the leading and wealthy persons of society agree to spend 50% of their income in the service of the Lord, as it is taught by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is absolute certainty of converting this hell of pandemonium to the transcendental abode of the Lord. No one will disagree to partake in a function where good singing, dancing, and refreshment are administered. Everyone will attend such a function, and everyone is sure to feel individually the transcendental presence of the Lord. This alone will help the attendant associate with the Lord and thereby purify himself in spiritual realization. The only condition for successfully executing such spiritual activities is that they must be conducted under the guidance of a pure devotee who is completely free from all mundane desires, fruitive activities, and dry speculations about the nature of the Lord. No one has to discover the nature of the Lord. It is already spoken by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita, especially in all other Vedic literatures generally. We have simply to accept them in toto and abide by the orders of the Lord. That will guide us to the path of perfection. One can remain in his own position. No one has to change his position, especially in this age of variegated difficulties. The only condition is that one must give up the habit of dry speculation aimed at becoming one with the Lord. And after giving up such lofty, puffed up vanities, one may very submissively receive the orders of the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam from the lips of a bona fide devotee whose qualification is mentioned above. This will make everything successful without a doubt. Hare Krishna.
Next. Krishna says, always remember me. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha. So this mantra is taught by Narada to Vyasadeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha. So let us all chant Om Namaha. Paying obeisances to Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya, son of Vasudev. Dhimahi, let us chant. Dhimahi means chant. Dhimahi. Then Pradyumnaya, Anuruddhaya, Sankarshanaya. They are all literally expansions of Vasudeva. Namaha. Okay. So Narayana is the primeval cause of all expansions of Godhead. That's how Srila Prabhupada starts. Om Namo Dhimahi. This is a Gayatri mantra. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha Tatsaviturvarena Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhiyayana Prachodayat. In this way, Dhimahi means let us meditate upon, let us chant, meditate. So wherever the word Dhimahi Om Namaha. And immediately understand this is Gayatri. Okay, Gadadhar Prabhu, read.
Hare Krishna Dandavatnam. Sorry, Mataji, I had some disturbance, so I could attend the early call. I'm reading Mataji. Text number 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumna Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Namaha Sankarsanaya Cha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansion Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshana. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. According to Pancharatra, Narayana is the primeval cause of all expansions of Godhead. These are Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Vasudeva and Sankarsana are on the middle left and right. Pradyumna is on the right of Sankarsana, and Aniruddha is on the left of Vasudeva. And thus, the four deities are situated. They are known as the four aides de camp of Lord Shri Krishna. This is a Vedic hymn or mantra beginning with Omkara Pranava, and thus the mantra is established by the transcendental chanting process, namely Om Namo Dhimahi, etc. The purport is that any transaction, either in the field of fruitive work or in empiric philosophy, which is not ultimately aimed at transcendental realization of the Supreme Lord, is considered to be useless. Naradaji has therefore explained the nature of unalloyed devotional service by his personal experience in the development of intimacy between the Lord and the living entity by a gradual process of progressive devotional activities. Such a progressive march of transcendental devotion for the Lord culminates in the attainment of loving service of the Lord, which is called prema, in different transcendental variegatedness called rasas, tastes. Such devotional service is also executed in mixed forms, namely mixed with fruitive works or empiric philosophical speculations. Now, the question which was raised by the great Rishi headed by Shaunaka regarding the confidential part of Suta's achievement through the spiritual master is explained herein by the chanting of this hymn consisting of 33 letters. And this mantra is addressed to the four deities or the Lord with his plenary expansions. This central figure is Lord Shri Krishna because the plenary portions are his aide de camp. The most confidential part of the instruction is that one should always chant and remember the glories of Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his different plenary portions expanded as Vasudeva, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. These expansions are the original deities for all other truths, namely either Vishnu Tattva or Sakti Tattvas. Hare Krishna.
Iti murtyabhidanena mantramurtim amurtikam yajate yajna purusham sasamyak darshana puman iti murtyabhidanena mantramurtim amurtikam yajate yajna purusham sasamyak darshana puman. So he is a seer. He is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation the Lord, who has no material form. Murtim avidenena. So the sound representation, mantra murti, the representation of transcendental sound, amurtikam. Lord has no material form. Yajatehe yajnaha purusham. In this way, in the yajna, Lord is invoked by mantras. And mantras are actually representation of Lord. We don't have to keep any vigraha. The vigraha is invoked by mantra. Lord is invoked by mantra. Sometimes you will find there is no vigraha. But you think, hey, why there is no vigraha? And they will put through Rangoli the form of Lord. They invoke through the sound representation. Everywhere you will not find vigraha, then what will do? In temples, we have vigraha to worship. But if you don't have vigraha, then there are experts who can make rangolis very nicely and then invoke Lord through the sound. Then they also close the yajnas, then they will just remove that rangoli. Little bit they'll scratch it. So they can invoke through the sound that has been given. Lord has no material form. So in the form of transcendental sound representation, the seer, the actual seer is who is worshipping Lord with transcendental sound representation. So when a devotee is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he is actually worshipping Lord. Kalir Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avtar. In the form of name, Lord has appeared. So any of Vigraha Sevan is there so that we don't forget Krishna. To always remember Krishna, it is chanting of the holy name. The more we chant that the Lord who is Avyaktaha is Avyaktaha, but he becomes Avyaktaha. He manifests through the sound representation. Like you go somewhere, you don't have the deities before you. And what you'll do? Chant. The deities automatically manifest. Wherever we go, we can chant. You can be in a railway station and chant. You can be in an airport and you can chant. Sound representation. Lord, if the actual seer is one who can see Lord in the sound representation. Now, when Prabhupada went to West, he did not have a temple there. But he himself is a temple. Why he is carrying Lord? He is chanting the holy name of Lord. He did not have all the facilities immediately, in fact, he created the facility. But for him, Lord is not lost even for a fraction of a second. Because sound representation. Now we think that, okay, bhakti can be done only when there is a temple. There is no temple, then you will not do bhakti. Chanting. This is very important. For Srila Prabhupada, which temple was there? In fact, he left all the facilities, went to West. Which temple was there? So, sound representation. Prabhupada emphasizes on this. Chant the holy name. Because then he becomes an actual seer. He can worship Lord through sound representation. Okay. There's other Prabhu, you can read. Wait. I have not given chance to Vandana Mataji. Okay, Vandana Mataji, read.
Hare Krishna. Iti murti abhidhanena mantramurti murtikam yajte yagna purusham sa samyaga darshanaha pumam. Translation. Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. Purport. Our present senses are all made of material elements, and therefore they are imperfect in realizing the transcendental form of Lord Vishnu. He is therefore worshipped by sound representation via the transcendental method of chanting. Anything which is beyond the scope of experience by our imperfect senses can be realized fully by the sound representation. A person transmitting sound from a far distance can be factually experienced. If this is materially possible, why not spiritually? This experience is not a vague, impersonal experience. It is actually an experience of the transcendental personality of Godhead, who possesses the pure form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. In the Amarakosha Sanskrit dictionary, the word Murti carries import in twofold meaningly, namely form and difficulty. Therefore, Amurtikatam is explained by Acharya Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as meaning without difficulty. The transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of holy mantras or transcendental sound representation. Such sound should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master, and the chanting may be practiced by direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. This method of worship is recommended in the Pancharatrika system, which is both recognized and authorized. Pancharatrika system has the most authorized code for transcendental devotional service. Without the help of such code, one cannot approach the Lord, certainly not by dry philosophical speculation. The Pancharatrika system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedanta for this modern age. Hare Krishna.
For 5 nights, Narada speaks to Lord Shiva how to utilize everything in Krishna's service. That is Pancharatra system. Like you have dhupa, deepa, cloth, water, jal, everything in Lord's service. And it's 5 nights, Pancharatra. For 5 nights, Narada explains this to Lord Shiva. How to use whatever you have in Lord's service. Imam swanigamam brahman avetya mad anushtitam adan me jnanam aishwaryam swasmin bhavam chakeshavah. So Imam, thus swanigamam, this is confidential knowledge of the Vedas. Brahmano Brahmanaha, Avetyaha, knowing this by me, Mat Anushtitam, Adata, executed also by me, bestowed upon me, me, Jnanam, transcendental knowledge, Aishwaryam, opulence, Swasmin, personal, Bhavam, intimate affection, love, Cha, Keshava, Lord Krishna. For Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service. So, Lord gave me this knowledge. Is the most confidential part of the knowledge. And how I got this? Because of the spiritual master. And then the spiritual opulences were revealed. And then with his intimate loving service. So because of the intimate loving service, the Lord's sweetness is also revealed. Okay. So first he was endowed with transcendental knowledge. This transcendental knowledge is the most confidential part. And this, because of this knowledge, Lord's opulences is understood. And by serving Lord intimately, Lord's sweetness is also understood. Intimacy and opulence is also understood. Sweetness is also understood. Okay. Neeraj Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hari Bol, Dhanavad Pranam. Imam swanigamam brahman vetyam adunishtatam adan me jnanam aishwarya swasminam bhavam chakeshava. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service. Purport. Communion with the Lord by transmission of the transcendental sound is non-different from the Holy Spirit, Lord Shri Krishna. It is completely perfect method for approaching the Lord. By such pure contact with the Lord without offense of material conceptions numbering 10, the devotee can rise above the material plane to understand the inner meaning of the Vedic literatures, including the Lord's existence in the transcendental realm. The Lord reveals his identity gradually to one who has unflinching faith, both in the spiritual master
and in the Lord. After this, the devotee is endowed with mystic opulences, which are 8 in number. And above all, the devotee is accepted in the confidential entourage of the Lord and is entrusted with specific service of the Lord through the agency of the spiritual master. A pure devotee is more interested in serving the Lord than in showing an exhibition of the mystic powers dormant in him. Sri Narada has explained all these from his personal experience, and one can obtain all the facilities which Sri Narada obtained by perfecting the chanting process of the sound representation of the Lord. There is no bar for chanting this transcendental sound by anyone, provided it is received through Narada's representative, coming down by the chain of disciplic succession or the parampara system. Hare Krishna Mataji, Hari Bol, Dandavat.
Last verse. We will have 6 chapters for the examination. So last verse for the 5th chapter. Tamapyapatra shuta vishrutam vibho samapyate yena vidam bhuvutsitam prakhya dukkhair muhur arditatmanam sanklesha nirvanam pushanti nanyatha tamapyadabhra shruta vishrutam vibho samapyate yena vidam bhuvutsitam rakhya dukkhair muhur arditatmanam sanklesha nirvana ushanti nanyatha. So therefore, last is what therefore only is enough. Please therefore, conclusion now. Tvam, your good self, api also, adabhraha, vast, shruta, Vedic literatures. Vishrutam, have heard also. Vibhoho, of the Almighty. Samasyate, satisfied. Yena, by which, vidam, of the learned. Bhuvutsitam, who always desire to learn transcendental knowledge. Prakyahi, describe. Dukkhahi, by miseries. Muhu, always. Ardita atmanam, are suffering mass of people. Sanklesha, sufferings. Nirvanam, mitigation. Ushantina, do not get out of. Anyataha, by other means. So you have also studied everything. So describe now Lord's activities, which you have learned by the vast study of Vedas. And that is going to satisfy learned souls. Vidam bhuvutsitam prakyaha, describe now. This is going to satisfy the learned people. Is given here. And then satisfy. Samapyate vidam. Whatever you have heard, now describe Krishna, describe the Lord. And at the same time, this is going to mitigate Ardita Atmanam. Is going to mitigate their sufferings. Sankleshaha Nirvanam. And then, indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. So you have a vast study of the Vedic knowledge. Now describe Lord's activity. This is going to satisfy the hankerings of great learned man, and at the same time mitigate the sufferings of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. So, Neeraj Prabhu, you only continue.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranam. Tvam shrutam vishrutam vibhom samapyate yena vidam bhuvusitam prakhyahi durkhair muhurtar ditatmanam sangnam klesham nirvana mushyanti nanyatha. Translation: Please therefore Describe the Almighty Lord's activities which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankering of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people, who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Narad Muni, from practical experience, definitely asserts that the prime solution of all problems of material work is to broadcast very widely the transcendental glories of the Supreme Lord. There are 4 classes of good men, and there are 4 classes of bad men also. The 4 classes of good men acknowledge the authority of the Almighty God, and therefore, such good men, number 1, when they are in difficulty, number 2, when they are in the need of money, number 3, when they are advanced in knowledge, and 4, when they are inquisitive to know more and more about God, intuitively take shelter of the Lord. As such, Naradji advises Vyasadeva to broadcast the transcendental knowledge of God in terms of the vast Vedic knowledge which he has already attained. As far as the bad men are concerned, they are also 4 in number. Those who are simply addicted to the mode of progressive fruitive work and thus are subjected to the accompanying miseries. Number 2, those who are simply addicted to vicious work for sense gratification and so suffer the consequences. And those, number 3, who are materially very much advanced in knowledge, but who suffer because they do not have the sense to acknowledge the authority of the Almighty Lord. And 4, the class of men who are known as atheists and who therefore purposely hate the very name of God, although they are always in difficulty. Sri Naradji advised Vyasadeva to describe the glories of the Lord just to do good to all 8 classes of men, both good and bad. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore not meant for any particular class of men or sect. It is for the sincere soul who actually wants his own welfare and peace of mind. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the first canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Any doubts? Nice. Next 2 weeks, we'll try to complete the 6th chapter. Then we'll have examination.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
15th. By 22, your portion will be over. So we can keep examination maybe on when you want examination. 1 week study week first. Study now only and keep. November first week we can keep examination.
Okay.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, Mataji. Mataji, I have a
more time. Yeah.
Mataji, I have a question. Is number 37? We are talking about Chaturbhuha, but the last line says either Vishnu Tattva or Shakti Tattva. Where does Shakti Tattva come from?
Who is Radharani?
Oh, but here we are talking about Narayana.
Who is Lakshmi?
Shakti Tattva.
The energy, na? Energy of Lord. Na? Radharani is who is Radharani? The energy of Lord, Shakti Tattva.
Yeah.
The moment we hear Shakti Tattva, we think of Durga Ji. She's also the Shakti Tattva.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Shakti. Yeah, Sisti, Siti, Pralaya, Saha. Even to maintain this material world, Shakti Tattva is required.
Yes.
Yoga Maya, Mahamaya, both are Krishna's energy. Mama Maya, Krishna says. It's not very allergic to the word Shakti. Shakti is Radharani also. Radharani is the only Shakti. Other Shaktis come from Radharani.
Right. Okay, we are talking about Radharani there. Okay.
We can talk about Durga ji also. What is the problem? His Shakti only, na?
Yeah. Okay, Mataji.
Mataji, I have a request. We are talking of the next exam. I have missed my paper for this last exam also. So when can we schedule that?
When can why you have missed, it will be scheduled for you.
Both myself and Vandana have actually, we were traveling when it happened. So
So whoever has missed, I'll ask Bindu to set yours.
yeah, so if we can just appear for that exam, then yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Starting from second to third music. Once again. Patitanam Bhavanayo Vaishnava Devanam Vishnu Krishna.